New defensive players in Dallas, and guess what? That new D and Big D look good on a Monday night. We'll talk about it here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I am Tony Wiggins, the host of The Barbershop, and he is Kevin Oestreicher. And you are listening to Locked On NFL in The Barbershop, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network. Shout out to the everydayers. And we are here as your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. What we do is we go around here on Locked On NFL and we use clips from the local hosts that cover the team each and every day to let you know exactly what's going on with them in real time. And we're going to do that today also. I am with Kevin Oestreicher, as I always am, here on a Tuesday. Make sure wherever you lock yourself in on these podcasts, man, so you don't miss an episode, wherever you watch or listen, make sure you tap in to Locked On NFL each and every day. Like the episode you're listening to right now that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, let me give you a quick rundown. I'm going to give you a roadmap to where we're going to end up and then where we'll start. Michael Penix year and future in limbo in Atlanta. Another devastating injury for him. Right in the middle of the show, we'll talk about the Texans and how they're still alive despite a slow start. But at the top, we're going to examine whether or not a slow start is going to hinder the Dallas Cowboys from making a run now that they retooled their defense after the unthoughtless trade of Michael Parsons early this season, getting Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson added to their defense. Monday night game last night, man, they looked pretty good on offense and defense, Kevin Oestreicher.
They did. And, you have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens not playing on that first possession, and then
I wonder what they did.
They were in Vegas. They were in Vegas. I'm
just wondering what they did, man. You got to tell me what they did if you suspend them. What did they do? But go ahead.
That's like Abdul Carter. He fell asleep in a facility. We know that now. So I don't know, but they came in. They didn't miss a beat, and Pickens looks awesome, and they've been searching for that for a long time. That guy they can put next to CD and really have them go to work together. They've had their fair share of misses there. CD and George Pickens together, Dak looked good. The additions on defense, Quinnen Williams coming in, you had other guys debut as well, which was really cool to see. So really complete win from Dallas against the Raiders team that I know we're going to talk about is on the outs right now.
Oh man, I'm thinking that it's unthinkable, but this might be Pete Carroll's only year.
Yeah,
Pete Carroll acting like he was hanging out. It looked like he's been hanging out with the opposing team when they come to town. Yeah, but listen to my man Landon McCool here from Locked On Cowboys talk about their impressive win against a bad team last night.
Everything went the Cowboys' way tonight as Quinnen Williams shows up and immediately makes his presence felt while Dak Prescott throws for 4 touchdowns and the Cowboys roll against the Raiders 33-16 in Las Vegas on Monday night. Hi, I'm Landon McCool, the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and Quinnen Williams and the Cowboys defense looks completely different than the way they did before the trade as the Cowboys immediately see returns on that great trade as he gets 1.5 sacks tonight. And the rest of the defensive tackles also getting into the action as Oestreicher had a key sack at the end of the game. Kenny Clark had a fantastic game overall. Cowboys defense looks completely transformed, and the Cowboys offense looks reinvigorated. The run game was more efficient as they rushed for over 120 yards. Pickens and Lamb both had touchdowns as Pickens had an incredible 150-plus yard touchdown performance. 150-yard receiving touchdown performance as well. So everything came up Cowboys today, and everything's looking good coming out of the bye. For more on this, make sure you check us out on the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
I'll tell you one thing about Dallas is I'm impressed with Brian Schottenheimer. I know him a little bit anyway because of when he was here in Jacksonville, but Schotty has done a real good job, and they play a certain way. Now that they've gotten more talent, Kenny Clark got busy last night. If they can keep this thing together, man, they could actually make a run for a wild card spot here in the NFC because everybody else seems like they want to back out of the playoffs like Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk.
Yeah, man, that tie makes everything so difficult. I can't do ties. It feels like every single year there's a tie that happens and it's impacting the playoff race. So look, Dallas has a real shot to make some noise here, especially if they play like this. And yes, it was the Raiders, but you can argue that they just did what they were supposed to do. The Raiders came in and the O-line, everything like that's in shambles. The defense, they took advantage of that. They did what they were supposed to do. They won a game that they were supposed to dominate, and that's what they did. So now moving forward, I mean, you have a little tough stretch coming up. That's going to be an interest. I mean, that's going to define their season essentially when it comes to, what is in store for them playoff wise, because you have the Eagles and the Chiefs back to back. So you're playing the Super Bowl matchup in a matter of days as they have the Sunday, then Thanksgiving slate. So Eagles, Chiefs, Lions is nothing easy there. But if they can come out like 2-1 in those 3 games, I'd feel okay about them making a postseason run.
Yeah, and the thing is, especially with the Eagles, because look, the Eagles don't score very many points. Dallas does. So that's going to be the thing. They don't even have to play great. I think they might just have to get to 21, which would be a chore based on how well the Eagles defense is playing. Now, I'll tell you somebody that doesn't have to worry about the playoffs, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders. In fact, I think a lot of people over there need to be worried about whether they're going to be employed next year, namely Chip Kelly and or Pete Carroll. Here's my man, Quentin Myers with Locked On Raiders.
What's up, Raider Nation? Q Myers here, Locked On Raiders podcast. Immediately reacting after the game. Bloodbath on Monday Night Football at Allegiant Stadium. 33-16, the Dallas Cowboys get the dub. And a lot of Cowboy fans in the house were put on for a good show. Unfortunately, this is the home of the Raiders, and Raider fans were not put on for a good show. It was really bad. Ashton Genty barely involved. They did get him involved in the passing game, but hardly any carries for anybody that was a running back in the first half of the game. Cowboys dominated really start to finish. It was tied up at 6 early in the game. It looked like maybe it was going to be something, but the Raiders struggled in the red zone, and what's new, right? Just a really bad performance. Unfortunately, Raider Nation did not get their money's worth at Allegiant Stadium. We'll have a complete recap. About to go into the locker room right now, find out what the players have to say about their another loss. Right now they're 2-8 on the young season. So make sure to tune in to the Locked On Raiders podcast for this and a whole lot more.
Geno Smith. Geno had his moments in Seattle, but Geno is now looking like the Geno that got drafted in New York, man. And depending on what his buyout is, the Raiders got to do something at quarterback, not to mention some other places.
Yeah, it's been rough. And I look, honestly, I wasn't expecting Geno Smith to come in there and be like their savior that's going to lead them on a Super Bowl run or anything, but it's been bad for the Raiders here. And, like their wide receiver situation is tough. Brock Bowers missed a lot of time. Like that defense again, like Max Crosby and friends, it feels like out there. There's not a lot of help. So I wouldn't bring Pete Carroll back. What's the point? I mean, what's the point? Like, is he gonna magically like turn this team around? There were some weird decisions by him in this game. He admitted that he was a big reason why they went more pass happy and play action happy in this game. And I think that it's like Ashton Genty is gonna probably be a generational running back in this league, but they had bigger issues besides running back in that draft. And it's almost like Bowers is an awesome player, but they drafted Michael Mayer the year before in the second round. So now you have a first and a second round tight end, and like your offensive line is in shambles, and you have all these other weaknesses. Like, just feels like they have a lot of really intriguing young talent and a couple of really good players, but doesn't feel like they fit together at all. Like
I call that bad team building. Anybody can cherry pick talent, but can you build a team? The Raiders have not done a real good job of it. A couple of teams that have done a good job, the Texans and the Bills, but they're not where they thought they would be. Can they get back? Because they've been on a little bit of a winning streak as of late. We'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game really, really exciting, especially when your team's making that late push and you got some Skrilla on the line. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, I'm here with my man, Kevin Oestreicher. There he is. I had to get Kevin back on the screen. There's my man, KO, from Locked On Ravens. Some teams that everybody thought would make some noise and possibly contend for the Super Bowl. The Bills is one. The Chiefs are another one. We talked about them yesterday. The Texans it was thought by a lot of people that they were going to run away with the AFC South, but a slow start and then an injury to CJ Stroud kind of derailed that for a lot of people, but a miracle win against Jacksonville last week. And then a miracle win, believe it or not, against the lowly Tennessee Titans this week has them back at 5-5, and they're hanging around the edge of the wild card. Here's my man, John Hickman, after Sunday's game.
I didn't think that game was going to end, and I definitely didn't think Houston was going to hold on to the lead, but they did, and the Houston Texans improved to 500, 5-5 on the season, beating the Tennessee Titans 16-13. I'm John Hickman of the Locked On Texans podcast, your team every day. It was hard to watch that game. It was, especially in the first half. Second half, Houston came out, was able to get a touchdown on the board. Amazing catch from Nico Collins. But overall, man, I just think this is one of those games where it was almost a trap game. Cam Ward did a good job at the end of keeping Tennessee into the game, scoring late. But for the Houston Texans, hey, man, enjoy the win. You're at 500. You control your destiny, but you can't have too many more of these moments. And I think this game proved for anybody that was doubting how much Houston needs their franchise quarterback in C.J. Stroud, they need him against Buffalo. Don't know if he will be. I'm getting ahead of myself. But overall, they're going to need their quarterback soon to stay competitive late in the season where they're starting to take on some great teams. But this was a good game for Houston. They climbed themselves.
Yeah, good game for Houston. They won. They did what they were supposed to do, and now they have Buffalo coming up. They definitely, I believe, need C.J. Stroud if they're going to get to that 10-win plateau that might put them right where they need to be to get a wild card.
Yeah, that defense is so good where
real good, man.
They can make some stuff happen for the offense while CJ and it has while CJ's been out. I mean, I think when Davis Mills comes in, you're like, all right, well, here's the season right here, and the Texans defense, and even Davis Mills himself a little bit. And so, look, that young Texans receiver group, even when Nico Collins was out, Jaden Higgins stepping up and Jalen Noel, like they have some young guys on that offense. The problem for me with Houston is that offensive line is just really bad, and it's come playoff time, your weaknesses are what get you eliminated. And for me, for any offense that starts, I'm going through it in Baltimore right now. It starts up front, that it is what it is. And so like that defense can keep you in games. It can keep you in contention. And I think while Indy's going to win that division, I'm pretty sure, unless some magic ride happens. I'm going with Indy. I'm going with Indy.
I know. We still got them though. We got them in our crosshairs, baby. Down in Jacksonville.
But that's the thing, right? Where the AFC South is so competitive. Throw Tennessee out of this conversation, obviously. It's so competitive where Jacksonville will look like the best team in the NFL one week, and then they'll look like the worst team in the NFL the next week. Like you have all this parity there, with Indy obviously being the team that's at the top. Houston's not out of this thing, though, and so I've penciled in an AFC East team to make the playoffs, whether it's Buffalo or New England. Whichever team doesn't win the division will get in. But It comes down to, I think, look, one AFC West team not named the winner is going to make it, and then is that second team going to be the Chiefs, or is it going to be an AFC tout team like Jacksonville, who has the tiebreaker over the Chiefs? or is Houston going to make a run? I mean, there are a couple of teams in this AFC that can really make a run there, and Houston is one of them.
So you're already saying that Baltimore's going to win the division. That is because you didn't include them.
I do not think that there are going to be two AFC North teams make the playoffs this year. So, they're going to have to. They're going to have to.
They're going to have to get there. You mentioned Buffalo. I think Buffalo is definitely a wild card because they lost head-to-head to New England, and New England's riding out, and Buffalo. Well, they win all of these games like the Chiefs game they do, and they play well, and then they go and get beat by teams they're not supposed to lose to it. But last week they got it going again. Here's my man Joe Marino from Locked On Bills.
The Buffalo Bills win a shootout 44-32 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and get a much-needed win against a good Bucs football team. And really the story is this. The Bills have some deficiencies with their football team. Their run defense, not so hot. Offensively, things can look unsettled at times, but the Bills played a wide-open style of offense in this game. Josh Allen accounts for 6 touchdowns, nearly 350 yards, and it really just begs the question, is this the style of game the Bills need to be more willing to play? Typically, they're very much a clock control offense, limit possessions, but the variance that was introduced into this game by playing that wide-open style really unleashed the playmaking ability of Josh Allen. I'm excited for this win, and I'm very curious to see how this affects how the Bills want to play football games moving forward.
Oestreicher, I don't want you to get mad at me when I say this. Josh Allen just might win the MVP again, man. I'm telling you. I know. Look at you.
I've graduated from that. I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm done.
But he just might. But look, with games like you account for 6 touchdowns, man. Come on. And now you see what the Bills defense doing. Now you really know this year they ain't nothing without that dude, man. So while I'm happy for anybody else that is in the race, I'm telling you, it seems like they already wanted to give it to Josh. But the Bills, I don't think they're complete enough to do any real damage in the playoffs. But they do have the one thing that you would need if you're incomplete, and that is a dude that can make up for all of that stuff.
Well, he needed to get 7, or else I would have won my fantasy matchup.
Oh, there you go.
I got what, 48 points, and I lost it on the CD Lamb drop. So going back to our first segment with Dallas, I know we talked about that before the show, but yeah, I mean the Bills, they have because they've also been one of those teams that, like, okay, you lose to Miami and you lose to Miami. It wasn't wasn't a buzzer beater win for the Dolphins.
You got smoked. Right?
Yeah, it was bad. But now you come out against Tampa, who again, Tampa's going through just injury after injury after injury, and they still put up points. But I just, again, like I talked about it with some of these teams we've already talked about, where your weaknesses get you eliminated in the postseason. And I just don't know that outside of Josh Allen and James Cook, they have enough firepower, even if they have any firepower to make a run here. And with the way New England is playing, you mentioned that they won that tiebreaker so far with everything that's going on. I think they played once more, if I'm not mistaken. So there's an opportunity for Buffalo there. But because I think that whichever team doesn't win the East will be the 5 seed. And I've been talking about this actually for a long time on Locked On Ravens, actually for probably like a month at this point, because the Ravens had needed to go on a run. So I was going through all these crazy scenarios. And I said, look, if the Ravens, they come back and they win that division and the Patriots keep balling the way they are and the Bills can't catch them, and the Ravens get the 4 seed, the Bills get the 5 seed, the Bills in the wild card round could travel to Baltimore, which is what everybody thought the AFC Championship matchup was going to be in round 1. So it is possible that that's a reality that happens because, remember Wig a couple of years ago when Chiefs and the Chargers were both like 13-4 or something, or one was 14-3, the other was 13-4. There's always that one team that is like, man, I'm winning all these games, but this other team can't stop winning their games. And then they lose the head-to-head battle, and all of a sudden they're on the road in a year they should. I mean, it happened last year with the Vikings and the Lions and the NFC North.
Certainly did.
Those are the situations that happen every single season. And I think for Buffalo, they're probably going to be that team this year unless they can go on a run. And The Bills' schedule itself is not necessarily overly difficult, I would say. I mean, you have the Texans, Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, Browns, and Eagles, and then you end your year with the Jets. So, I think that Patriots game will probably determine who wins the division, honestly, because I think the Patriots also will have to deal with their fair share of schedule toughness with teams like the Ravens and the way they're playing and whatnot, Buffalo, etc. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how the division race shapes up.
I'm excited to see it myself. In the NFC is a little bit of intrigue, some long-term intrigue and short-term intrigue. The Bears are actually winning the NFC North right now. Look, Caleb Williams' second year, Ben Johnson's first year, but the Falcons, who had a very nice start to the season, are right back to where Atlanta always is, and that is football purgatory. We'll talk about them and them losing their quarterback in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, we're moving to groove in third and final segment here on Locked On NFL with my man Kevin Oestreicher from Locked On Ravens. The Falcons, man, they can't get out of their own way. They drafted Michael Penix a couple of years ago as insurance and for their future, after also signing Kirk Cousins to a ridiculous contract. Cousins gets hurt. Penix steps in. Now Penix is hurt for the fifth time in 8 football seasons. He has a season-ending knee injury, and you just wonder what it means from this point forward. They had a bad loss the other day. Here's my man Aaron Freeman.
Tell me if you've heard this one. A Falcon and a Panther walk into a bar, and the Falcons blow a lead, with the Falcons taking a 21-10 lead in the halftime thanks to first half performances from Bijan Robinson and Drake London. Same old Falcons showed up, found a way to lose again, their 5th straight of the season. Offense struggled in the second half, with the team doing nothing on 2 Michael Penix drives before he exited the game with a knee injury. Kirk Cousins entered the game. They did nothing until the very end, with him leading the team on a field goal drive to send it into overtime. And then that offensive stagnation continued into the 5th quarter, and Carolina got a stop, and they were able to set up a 28-yard game-winning field goal thanks to a 54-yard catch and run by Tommy Tremble. That's 4 straight wins for Bryce Young over the Falcons, 5 straight losses for Raheem Morris as the head coach of the Falcons. And now we're left wondering, is the season over? Well, based off of the 3-7 record, yes, the season is over. But if Michael Penix is now going to miss significant time with his knee injury, what is left to play for? So can we fast forward to the offseason? Oh, wait, no, that's not even going to give this team any hope, because they don't have a first-round pick next April. So great. It's all spiraling down the drain. So if you want to, do whatever with this team that is doing nothing, make sure you follow Locked On Falcons, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
My man said, do whatever with it that you will. I ain't got nothing to do with it, man. Whatever you want to do, just do it. I understand it's pain, because I think this is going to end Raheem Morris's tenure there, and the Falcons are going to be starting over. They got a lot of decisions to make, because Penix is often hurt, and he's a young guy who's often hurt, and that usually means they might have to start looking somewhere else for their long-term quarterback solution.
Man, every year with this Falcons team, you finally think it's the year they're gonna break through. with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan over there, and you're just like, every year it ends in disappointment, and the season's not even over yet, and it's already ending in disappointment. So, I mean, for the Falcons, it is. But, at the end of the day, they need to go through some sweeping changes because clearly it's not working. I agree. I think that this is probably it for Raheem Morris over there. And I don't know because, they don't own their first rounder next year. The Rams have it because they made an aggressive trade up. So there's no point for you to even lose because you don't even own your pick anyway. So just an absolute disaster for the Falcons right now. The NFC South, I thought it was going to be a lot more competition in that division between Atlanta and Tampa. Turns out it's actually Carolina and Tampa. Mm-hmm. So, you have to look yourself in the mirror here because it's been too long of, it's almost like the Raiders, right? Like they have all these offensive skill position players, but it just feels like they've had bigger issues elsewhere. And while I think they've done a better job than the Raiders at addressing some of those and like getting talent in the building, just doesn't seem like it all fits together nicely.
James Pierce, that's who they traded that pick for. That pick is now a top 8 pick. Just imagine the Rams, teams like that, the rich just keep getting richer. And, oh, by the way, the 2026 draft is way better than the 2025 draft, according to NFL scouts. I tell you, it's good. That's the Bears. They made a lot of changes in the offseason, and it is starting to show up and prove. And they're in a real tough division, but they just keep winning. They don't have to win pretty. Here's Lauren Cox with Locked On Bears.
The Chicago Bears tried to blow it in the fourth quarter again against the Minnesota Vikings, but somehow, some way, they find yet another way to win late in a fourth quarter comeback from Caleb Williams. This time it was the Bears' special teams that came up clutch, the big kick return from Devin Duvernay, and then we were all holding our breath on Cairo Santos' game-winning field goal, but they got the job done after seemingly getting in the way throughout the game up to that point. But then, DeAndre Swift has a couple of key runs to make that field goal a little bit more approachable, and Caleb Williams certainly did enough to keep the Bears in this game. Not the strongest performance all around, really. The offense struggling to consistently finish drives with points. The defense getting gashed at times, but getting enough turnovers on J.J. McCarthy to keep things within reach. And you'll take an ugly division win anytime. These are all difficult games in the NFC North. So finding a way to win against McCarthy and the Vikings when you couldn't in week one definitely represents real progress. Lot to break down from this game over on the Locked On Bears podcast. Find it on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, put that on my bingo card, that after 11 weeks, the Bears would be in front of that division. But good for them, good for Ben Johnson, good for Caleb Williams, and good for those fans, man. They deserve something after a long time of not being able to get it done.
It feels like all offseason we were talking about, it's the Lions, it's the Packers, it's the Vikings, and then the Bears are kind of there, but they can do something. No one really believed it. And now here we are with the Bears atop that division. So, yeah, it's been awesome. And, they're doing it without, like, some key playmakers certain weeks. Like, they played the Ravens without their entire top 3 corners, and they lost that game. But, Jalen Johnson's been out and is going to continue to be out. Like, that's a huge piece of their defense. But, you've got a lot of contributions from a lot of different players, and seeing how rookies are stepping up for them and, they're getting clutch plays. It feels like things are coming together for them now. Are they going to go on a Super Bowl run? I'm not really sure. It feels like a lesser version of what the Commanders put together last season. And, obviously that's with Jaden and Caleb being rookies as opposed to second-year players now. But it's like that. It's that team that has some younger pieces. They're not a super young team, and I know the Commanders are not a young team at all outside of Jaden Daniels, but it's like that team that you're not expecting to make a run. Maybe you feel like they're a couple of years away, and then all of a sudden they kind of zoom ahead of that timeline a couple of years early. Feels like that's where Chicago is right now. But, in that NFC, there are a lot of talented teams. Chicago's certainly one of them. But I'm curious to see how they end their season because I think there are a lot of different ways that this thing can go, especially because, those good teams we talked about in the NFC North earlier in the season and all offseason, they're not going anywhere. So everybody has questions to answer, but right now Chicago taking advantage.
Liam Cohen has the Jaguars at 6-4 too. Those two coaches are kind of tied at the hip a little bit because they were, quote unquote, the hot guys in the last coaching cycle. Tell you who's hot, and that's Locked On Podcast Network. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts each and every day. We're now the #1 podcast, the Sports Podcasting Network. So make sure you tap in each and every day. I'll be back tomorrow on the barbershop, but not until Tyler Rowland wakes you up in tomorrow morning with the Locked On NFL AM show. So make sure you check that out wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen. Kevin Oestreicher is going to go get busy with Locked On Ravens. Y'all head on over there and check him out. We don't take you for granted. A little bit more than 30 minutes today. That's what we gave you. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to the everydayers. And if you're a first timer, you can come back and be with us each and every day. Take care.